Is it going now? Doesn't sound like it. Oh, I won't hear it. Okay, well, good morning, and thank you for our little hiccups on the way to the first tour. Wanted to make sure you got your 10,000 steps in. Good afternoon. This is Saturday, April 12th, 2025. My name is Ellen Gannot, and this is a Friends of Wheeling walking tour of stained glass windows. We'll be going to 4 different downtown Wheeling churches and finishing off at Good Mansion Wine. This tour is part of a month-long focus on Wheeling glass, where there's going to be a number of activities all month long at the Howard County Public Library and other places throughout Wheeling. And our first spot is St. James Evangelical Lutheran Church. There was a large German immigrant population that built the original church in 1860. By 1891, the Gothic tower and bell were added. Services were done in German all the way through World War I. In the 1950s, the chapel was added in memory of all those who passed during World War II. And our host today is Polly Gear.
It's Polly Carr, and the expert here is Michael Hamilton, who knows. Can I help you? I'll let Michael use it.
So my name is Michael Hamilton. I am the former director of music here at St. James, and my family's been here since 1942, although there are elements of the extended family that have been here since the beginning. St. James Lutheran was founded in 1856 primarily by the Byhay family, B-A-Y-H-A, who was a large baking family here in town. They separated from Zion with a group of parishioners once the new pastor, who had come from Virginia, brought his slaves with him. There were a portion of Germans in Wheeling that were very much anti-slavery and at the time were new members of the then Republican Party. So they broke off from Zion and decided to form their own German Lutheran church, St. James, or St. Jacobus, as it was pronounced back then. And if you do any archiving research, you'll find a lot of instances where it was mispronounced as St. Jacobs in the newspaper, Jacobus being the German version of James. The parish was founded in January 1856, and the building was built in 1860. You'll also find that there are many instances of historical listings, including on the National Register of Historic Places, which accidentally list us as being built in 1891. You can see 1860 is listed above the left lantern and 1891 listed on the right when the Gothic was built. Now, one thing I like about being a St. James Lutheran is our building is actually older than St. Matthew's by 7 years. And I want to start on the outside as part of the tour so that you can see the differences between the buildings. We also had our friends at St. Matthew's did a drone inspection of their roof and did measurements and determined that St. James's spire is only 3.5 feet taller than ours. But we consider ourselves the taller twin tower because we sit on lower ground. So as you can see, the Gothic Cleveland sandstone was installed in 1891 as part of, we wanted to catch up with what St. Matthew's had done with their Gothic exterior. But the original church you can still see from the edifice here was in 1860. You'll notice the Cleveland sandstone breaks into the original brick. You'll also notice that the windows of the edifice are pointed arches in the Gothic style, but the original windows were rounded. The stained glass in the original part of the church was installed as part of the 1891 renovation. So if we can go in, we'll go in through the fellowship hall. I just want to show you a few things. The fellowship hall was the original part of the church that was built, and worship was held in there until the second floor was completed in 1862. A couple of other interesting stories you may want to know about St. James. At one time, the second pastor had 2 sons, and during the Civil War, one son went to fight for the Union and the other for the Confederacy. The pastor was brought before Wheeling City Council and questioned as to his loyalty to the Union, and there was a large fight in both German and English newspapers locally as to whether the pastor should continue. Because of the controversy, St. James, having been founded as an anti-slavery church, decided to let him go. First English was also allowed to worship here in the lower end at one time before their building was built down the street. However, there became a controversy with them. St. James was largely made up of brewers. We were a very pro-alcohol church, but the temperance movement took over First English, and they decided to leave because of the number of brewers that we had in the church. So if you'll come on in, I just want to show you our fellowship hall, which was the original port where worship was held. Also, the house is our food pantry, and this week we'll be giving away bags to about 200 to 230 families. We do serve about 180 to 225 families, households each month here at the pantry. Come on. Now, the fellowship hall was renovated in 1956, as you can see, and some of these windows were added at that time. They're just small decorations. Most of them were made up of Sunday school kids because this was the main Sunday school room. If we go through into the entrance of the new part, you can see the distinction between the buildings. The chapel was added in 1947 in memory of the parishioners who had been killed in action in World War II. One name that you may recognize is Jaquay. The Jaquay family was a big part of this church, and some of them helped to install the organ, which we'll see upstairs. The windows depict, on the right, Christ is the victor over a Roman soldier, and on the left, the Annunciation of Mary. All right, so let's head up to the main part of the church. If you'd like, you could take either the stairs or you'll join me on the elevator, okay? So I'll meet you upstairs in the narthex.
Either way. Either way. I'm with you, Michael.
We're on microphones.
Well, he's coming back down here. Don't cause any more trouble. Is he asking? Are there questions going on? Are they asking questions?
Welcome to St. Matthew's.
Thank you.
You
can
think
either
they can
hold
probably
or-
hear me. Yeah, because I have a big mouth.
We're on Facebook too.
Okay. Oh, I see. Film at 11, huh? Welcome to St. Matthew's Episcopal Church. I am Father Richard Skaggs. I was the associate rector here for quite a number of years, but now I'm sort of retired. And there you are. The windows in this cloister are made by the Renaissance Glass Company out of Canonsburg, Pennsylvania. They represent the corporal acts of mercy as found in the Gospel of Matthew, Matthew 25. Unfortunately, there are 7 windows, but there are only 6 corporal acts of mercy. So we added one, burying the dead, which is not one of the of the acts of mercy. So, but anyway, they're quite beautiful. I should tell you, this church, St. Matthew's Church, was founded in 1819 by Moses Shepherd and some of the chaplains of Chaplain Street, Oath Street, and others of the community at that time. The first church was built in 1821. It was located on 10th Street, up near where Stone and Thomas department store used to be. They were there for a number of years and finally outgrew it. And they moved to a building next door here where the Fort Henry Club used to be. There was another kind of auditorium there, and they met there for a while they built the second church, which is the blue church that's still standing up on Byron Street. That was built in 1836. They remained there until they outgrew that, sold it to the Baptists, and moved down here in 1868. So this building was beyond at that period of time. It might be interesting to know also that the sandstone for this building came on the same railroad car with the sandstone that built the penitentiary. So, just a... Yes, right.
There you go.
Exactly. Okay. So we'll move up here to the hallway, please, for a moment.
They just started their tour because they're actually having people come through this way. So if you can.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Hi. Well, we'll go in here. It'll be easier.
I've seen you before.
After this group gets all through, you can go down and wait in this area here where we're live.
Now this is a whole new level of windows. Oh, really? Oh.
If you come down the aisle, I think you can see all the windows quite well then.
It's a whole different level, isn't it? Look at that one. That's so Tiffany-esque.
It is. There's that one there.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Now, as you probably know, stained glass has been a decorative item in churches since the Middle Ages. In those times, they were put in because most of the people were illiterate, and they were ways of depicting the Bible stories so that people could see them and understand them and know what they were about. course, nowadays we tend to make them all sort of decorative, but they're still they do still tell stories. We will start originally there were probably just plain stained glass with no figures in them at all in here. But as people gave windows, then that changed. The first window to be given was that one, which was given in 1892. It is a picture of the resurrection. You see Jesus there, or not Jesus, the angel and disciples who came to the tomb. The second window was given in 1897, and it was it depicts the story of Mary and Martha and Jesus. I used to sit there for church, so that was the window I always got to look at. I don't think I ever got to preach on Mary and Martha, though. But anyway, if you notice, Jesus and Mary have a nimbus around their heads, but poor Martha does not. I think that's rather unfair. I mean, after all, she was doing a good thing. The next window was given by Mr. Peterson of Peterson Hospital. You know that one. Actually, from what I found in our records, there was another window there before of a similar nature, except that it was damaged in a windstorm. A tree branch fell through it. So Mr. Peterson went to the Tiffany studios, where that comes from, and bought that window. Now, it is not a doctrine of the Episcopal Church. The Assumption of Mary is not something that we hold as a doctrine, but it's a beautiful window anyway. And that's what he thought, that it was a lovely window. The window after that is also a Tiffany. Actually, the last four windows are all Tiffany windows. The next one is a picture of the presentation in the temple. You see Mary and Joseph and Simeon, who's holding the baby Jesus. The flowers that appear in stained glass windows also have symbolic meaning. So in the corner there, you see a big pot of flowers. That is the Glastonbury thorn, and it is a representation of the nativity. So it makes sense with Jesus being presented in the temple. The other two windows of the angels, the first one is also a Tiffany window. You can tell the Tiffany windows easily because of the iridescent colors that are used in the glassware. And also the glass is very heavy and bumpy. It's not smooth. The first angel is the resurrection angel. That was given by Mrs. Charles Milton, who was related to the Loring family, who lived at Monument Place out in Elm Grove, the Osiris Temple. That was their summer home, apparently. Anyway, there was another window there before, but she didn't like it, so she had that taken out and she bought that one. The other window is a peace angel. That is given in memory of Daisy Scott. Daisy Scott was the daughter of Senator Nathan Scott. That was put in 1901. That window, she died when she was about 15 years old. So they gave the window in her memory. They also gave a free room in the hospital for children in OV Hospital. Anyway, they also established a fund to buy Christmas presents for needy children. We are still using that fund to this day. So sometimes it generates more than, sorry? I have no idea how much they cost to begin with. There's no record of that anywhere. I'm sure they're priceless now, but, then it would. Sorry, yes, they are. We have protective glass around all the windows. Yes. Yes.
Are those lilies with that angel?
Yes, they are lilies. And of course, lilies are, you think of the resurrection, but purity and that sort of thing. On the other side, we have the first two windows were done by the Lamb Company out of New York City. They were both dedicated on Easter Sunday of 1901. And the one at the far end is given by the Culbertson family in memory of their children who died very young. One was only 14 and the other was only a year old when it died. It is Jesus teaching in the temple. The second one is the Hildreth window, and it was given at the same time, another resurrection angel. Then these two windows are, well, that one is a Tiffany window, by the way, that second one. These two also were made by the Lamb Company, and the Steenrod window shows Jesus on the way to Calvary, and then the Good Shepherd window is next to it. You notice in the Good Shepherd window there are daisies. Daisies represent innocence, and the red flower that you see there are columbines, which represent the Holy Spirit. Also, the next window is the Howell window. The Howell family sat in the very first pew there. There's a tag there. It says A.A. Howell. Their daughter married Mr. Ogilvy, so there is an association there. That's the famous picture of Jesus knocking at the door, based on a painting by Holman Hunt. It is the only of the Tiffany windows that's actually signed Tiffany Studios. If you can go up and look closely, you can see that. And the last window is the Franzheim window that was given in 1970, so it's relatively new. It's a depiction of St. Matthew. You can see Matthew sitting at his table collecting taxes, and at the top in the little rosette there's a money bag, which is the symbol for St. Matthew's. The windows in the balcony are very new. The one on the left, the Zorian window, was put in 1985. It's in memory of Mr. Zorian, who was a longtime organist here, and it depicts the resurrection scenes. The one on the right, far right, was given by the Fawcett family, Dr. Fawcett and his wife, and it shows Jesus walking on the water, and I think that's also a resurrection. Anyway, that was given in 1987, so they're both relatively new. Mrs. Fawcett, who was a woman of great determination, did not like Mr. Zorian's window because it had too much yellow in it. So she made sure her window did not have yellow in it. Oh, wow. The center window is a picture of the Pentecost story. You see the little tongues of fire on top of all the people's heads. That was given in 1990, so it's not too old. At the very top is the beautiful little rose window, which is one of my favorites. It was given in 1967 by Mrs. Holloway. Now, I will tell you that this end of the church is the west end, this end is the east end, even if it isn't. So in a church, that's always west, this is always east. The west represents darkness, the east represents light. Rose windows were always put in the west because they represent the nativity, light breaking into the darkness. So you will see them. Now there are 12 roses in a ring around it representing the 12 apostles, and one rose in the center, which is the Christ. Now in the front, if you want to come up into the chancel, you might be able to see these a little better. I think it's wonderful that so many of you came out to see these wonderful windows. You're going to enjoy the ones at the cathedral, too, because they're quite lovely. They're a lot smaller, but they're very interesting. The front windows were put in 1960, so they're relatively new, I guess. You'll notice the deep colors that are in those windows. In those days, they were still making the glass with minerals and things that they can't use anymore. So that's why you get those richer colors. The The windows on there were originally other windows here that were put in 1871 in memory of the first and third ministers for this church. But they were taken out and changed in 1960. The ones on each side are a Jesse tree. And if you start in the lower left-hand corner, you have Jesse, David, Solomon, Joseph having the dream that it was okay to marry Mary, the Nativity, flight into Egypt, Jesus in the carpenter shop, Jesus' baptism, and then on the other side, walking on water, calming the storm, healing the paralytic, the Transfiguration, Palm Sunday, Last Supper, Crucifixion, Resurrection. You'll notice in the resurrection one, there are 12 apostles at Jesus' feet, except one of them is green. I think that's Judas. The center window is Christ in glory, and you'll notice he's wearing this thing on his chest. It's called the breastplate of Aaron. It represents the 12 tribes of Israel. Above him, clear at the top, is the holy city of the New Jerusalem. The little squiggly blue lines are the 4 rivers that flow out of the city. Then at his feet are Mary and John. Mary, you see, is represented by a lily. And John, if you look closely, there's a chalice there with a serpent in the top of it. Supposedly he drank poison and it didn't kill him. So those 2 figures are there. And remember, of course, in the crucifixion story, Mary and John are at the feet of Jesus in John's gospel. So, and then you see Alpha and Omega and the sun and the moon and those other things there. Finally, I will tell you that this iron thing here is called a rood screen, R-O-O-D. It is, it's a Celtic word for cross, so there's a cross on top of it, as you can see. The screen was to divide the nave from the holiest part of the church. So it was to separate this. So this is what would be called the chancel, and where that altar is would be called the sanctuary. So it was the separation for those. It was very common in medieval churches to have these kind of screens. Mostly they were solid. You couldn't see through them. They are an optical illusion, by the way. The openings on this side are smaller than the openings on this side. But you can't really tell it, but they are. Any questions? Any comments? Yes. Well, the quatrefoil in the center has significance. It represents the 4 corners of the earth or the 4 winds or, any of that kind of stuff. Other than that, it's quite beautiful though, isn't it? Yeah, it's excellent craftsmanship. I don't know. Probably not. I don't think they were around when the church was built, but yeah. But it would be hard to find craftsmen to do that today. Yeah. So,
well, thank you so very much.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What did they do with the windows that were there?
I have no idea. They probably just got rid of them or sold them or something. Yeah. So I don't know. We don't have any record of whatever happened to them. It's hard. They didn't keep a whole lot of strong records about things like this, so it was hard to find stuff.
Baptisms and deaths, but not stained glass.
Right, and these are old too, so the records are not that complete from older times. So, well, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate your coming.
Thank you.
And you're welcome to come during this week. We have a service on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you can.
Historians, are you noting what you just told us here?
Am I noting it?
Yeah. Is it a record of this?
Well, yes, we do have a record of this. Yeah, we have actually a book that was published that tells a lot of the history of it. And my desire is to become the archivist here, so that because I find all this stuff interesting. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll take your microphone.
Thank
the
you
next
very
person
much.
to speak on
I'm
it.
not used to being on it.
I noticed too, these bars, it's kind of hard.
Yes, they're right.
Our next stop will be First Presbyterian Church, just up the road a little bit more.
Take a souvenir. Oh, you're welcome, Joanne.
See you soon.
See you.
How you holding up, Linda? You holding up well?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Okay, good.
No problems down below.
Good, good.
I didn't.
Hey. We just finished at St. Matthew's.
So, where are we going to?
To First Presbyterian, right up the road a little bit. Every Sunday, no, was it Sunday? Yeah. Every Sunday went to Mass or service at a different church. And it was none of these, it was all the ones that, you know, oh, I wonder what that one's like. And I wonder, yeah. And it was fun.
Yeah, I rotate between the type of ones so they get up on time. But get up on time and help with the children.
Yeah.
Stay out front.
Oh, that is beautiful.
The most beautiful altar.
In fact, we were there around Christmas time. They were decorated for Christmas. It was stunning.
They have the real bells, you know, when they clean those bells, those are real. The ring so we can hear it in the floor.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Was Margaret in this tour, Brennan?
No, but yeah, she's supposed to have paid this for.
Yeah. Oh, well, you know, she may have scooted out.
I didn't see her at St. Matthew's.
We have a shoe tying pause down here. Okay. All right. Okay, our third stop is here at First Presbyterian Church, where we'll meet with Margaret Brennan. Noah Zane, a son of Wheeling's founder Ebenezer Zane, donated this land for this church, which was built between 1823 and 1825. It's believed to be the oldest extant building in downtown Wheeling, and originally featured a tall bell tower and clock. Hello. Stop for here. Hi, how are you?
Hi, welcome.
Go on in.
Going in, yes. Hello. Hi, how are you?
Is that what I do?
Oh, are you speaking?
Huh?
You'll be speaking?
Yes. Okay, sure. Or can I just hold it?
When you're ready.
Hi. Where did you come from? No, I mean, what church? St. Matt's?
Oh, yeah, the last one, yes.
St. Matthew's? How did that go? They said he was so excited to give the tour, Reverend Josh.
Yeah, he's very useful.
Oh, listen, he's a good guy. He really is. You want to come kind of not quite so far up there, maybe
What
you
church
can
is it?
take kind of pull back.
Oops, sorry.
Sorry.
Margaret, do you have your microphone?
Not yet. I'm not. Yeah, I've got one. Yeah. I don't want everybody's in.
Good afternoon. My name is Margie Carr. I'm the pastor here. I've been here for a year and a half. We welcome you to this historic church, over 200 years old. In the back, there are blue books. You're welcome to take a free copy of our history of our church that we did on our 200th. And Margaret Brennan is our historian archivist, and she will lead you through the story of the windows. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Reverend Margie. And thank you all for coming. Stained glass gives light to our souls, doesn't it? And today our souls are being lit up because we are being surrounded by the gorgeous glass of this Wheeling community. Now, you are in the oldest church building in the city. This church was 1825. It was a little different, a little shorter than it is today. And therefore you would expect that the oldest church glass in the city is in this building, and it is. The front narthex, there are 11 Roman arch windows. And they could date from 1825 to 1833. You're never quite sure. That's old. But these could be 200 years old. 200 years of welcoming the people into this building. Now, those windows are true stained glass. They are stenciled glass, which was kiln fired. It's uneven. It's old, so it doesn't look so good. They were restored, though, 3 times. The last time was 2003. They say that stained glass should be restored once every 100 years. Once that was restored, they should be good for the next 100 years. As you come in here, we need to say Protestant glass is different. It is simpler than Catholic, Lutheran, Episcopalian. It's just the way the religion worked. So, here we have perhaps the largest stained glass windows in a sanctuary, oldest, not largest, but mostly oldest. And these are Victorian. Now, this is a national pattern, 1880 to 1890, geometric was big in stained glass churches, in Protestant churches. So here you have, they went with the trend. You notice the colors. Do you know that in stained glass, each color has meaning? A lot of blues here. Blues are strength. Greens are spring, new life. Yellow is truth, and on and on. You see, these glass windows are a lot of blue. They also have globs of like jewel type glass throughout. Now, if you were a person that had some means, you could buy a window. And so you can see there are names in the lancets of these windows. They are some of the leading Presbyterian families and a lot that you would recognize. The Paul name, Lee Paul. Back here you have Dr. Todd. I'm sure you've all heard of Dr. Todd's little liver pills. Dr. Todd's pills made a lot of money for a lot of people, but there is a secret recipe that a relative has in Morgantown. Nobody's quite sure what was in Dr. Todd's pills, but I have a feeling they made people feel pretty good. And so they were very famous in Wheeling. Over here we have Miss Adeline Caldwell, her window. Miss Caldwell, maiden lady, was one of the richest women in Wheeling. She had a home up here at 14th and Chaplain. She had a family, it's gone now. She had a family of slaves. She brought her slaves to this church. They went up into what used to be a slave gallery until, of course, later years. And they would sit on the slave benches like the ones that you would see in the Blue Church, the original Episcopalian. And they would worship up there. After 1865, when they were freed, she bought them a pew in the church, and they worshiped here with the white community for years. And there was some grumbling about that, as you can imagine. But these people, they were like us. They came strengths and weaknesses. Now, before you leave, I would ask, and I forgot to tell you, the dedication of these windows, which I just figured out, was 139 years ago to this weekend. They were dedicated April the 11th, Sunday, April the 11th, 1886. And the paper had a big story, and they were called Chaste and Neat. Now, whatever. Before you leave, you may want to wander back into the history room, because there was a second United Presbyterian Church. There were Presbyterian churches all over the place. To the north, there was First United, which is gone now. To the south was Second United. It was in the parking lot of St. Matthew's, now gone. And it was torn down in 1969, and they assimilated with this group. But they had 2 art glass windows, which were very unusual for a Presbyterian church. And they are some of the finest glass in Wheeling, besides Tiffany, of course. They are from the von Grichten Company out of Columbus, but they used Munich of Bavaria workers, glass workers that came over as immigrants, and they were the best in the world at that time. The man who, of course, as you may have heard, dominated glass at that time was Tiffany, Louis Tiffany. 1910 to 1930, everybody did what he wanted them to do. And he had, of course, the drapery glass, melding the panes together to give you depth, and the drape, oh, beautiful. You'll enjoy it. And this von Grichten Company was known for its figures, faces, animals. There's a window back there that always uplifts me of the Christ and the lambs, just perfect for this time of year. The Hare family of Hare Plumbing donated those 2 windows. We know they were made in 1914, and one of them cost $312, which today it would be, well, you couldn't even get them today, I don't think. Well, no, they are. Actually, I believe they are still in business under another name. So I would urge you to look at them, but also back in the history room is Billy Sunday's podium. Now, Billy Sunday's podium came from First United Presbyterian. He jumped on it. He kicked it. You know, if you read the paper, the man was everywhere and did everything. And there's a slice in the front, and somebody said he kicked it. Well, I don't know if he did or not. But that is Billy Sunday's podium. You touch that, you touch Billy Sunday and his crusade in 1912. So, as we're surrounded by, and the von Grichten glass, the other place I know of it in Wheeling is in the First Evangelical Lutheran. Someday, hopefully, we'll get to see those windows. They are extraordinarily beautiful, and that's the same company. From like 1890 to 1930, the glass companies in Wheeling were tripping over each other. I mean, they were good glass everywhere. So, when we see this glass, this stained glass, it gives us joy, it gives us beauty, and it gives us God. So thank you so much for coming. Please enjoy. And thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you, Margaret. Very good. Very nice. Where are the windows that came out of the Second United?
Yeah.
Where did they end up? Did they, what is it?
They're the ones back there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
There's actually another one upstairs and another one downstairs. There were 4. But they were, they were
Something.
Are we going out this back?
We'll go back there. Is there a back there? I didn't
Oh,
know.
I don't know. I just
No.
saw everybody going.
Oh, there's a couple more windows over there. Okay, if we can all move on out, we ready to go? lost a microphone.
Where do we go next?
We're going up the alley to the Catholic Cathedral.
Okay, thanks. Okay, cathedral.
Yep, up the alley. Okay, think we got our crew here? Oh. All right. Think we got everybody?
I think so.
All right.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Keep on coming. You're welcome.
Suckers are in the back.
You're welcome.
Not bad.
Well, we have already talked about doing another one. We can. Yeah, love it. Love it. There you go. All right. Here we go. Lady with the umbrella.
Not any recent bishop, but yes, a bishop.
My son.
So glad the rain held off.
Your umbrella scared it away.
Yeah, I should have washed my car. It would have definitely rained. So what do y'all think so far? Enjoying your... Yeah. Really nice. All right. Maybe missing a couple, but we'll just have to bring up to the rear. There might be a moment before we find Brother John. All right, everybody ready? Brother John Bird is going to be our host at our last church visit, St. Joseph's Cathedral. An earlier Catholic cathedral named St. James once stood at this exact same location. The current Lombard Romanesque building was dedicated in 1926, and it is one of the largest churches in West Virginia. So I'll go up the steps and see if I can find Brother John. And we are locked.
Oh, come on. Try the other one. No, it should just open right up.
Use it as a door knocker.
Yeah, let's give that a try. It is a good idea. Maybe that's why they made them then. Oh, there we go.
Again. You see a pattern here.
If you have instincts, let them go.
Yes, that's right.
Hi, Brother John. I'm Ellen. You know,
good
that's
meeting.
your little fuzzy microphone.
Oh my, all right, thank you. I like that. Hey, thank you. Come on in. We just gather in the vestibule here. Oh my, how are you? It's good to see you. Okay. Good, thank you. Wow, so large a crowd here. Okay, yeah. Crowd, okay. Yeah, it's windy. Come into a place that's warm. Yeah, oh my God, hey, it's good to see you. How's it going? How's Dad doing?
He's fine. He went to Mrs. Ryan's funeral.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, come on in. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Well, the wind's picked up too.
I know. It smells
Yeah, they
really
are.
good.
Yeah, they're heavy. Okay. Okay. We could just gather around here by the the baptismal. Okay. First of all, I'd just like to introduce myself. My name is John Bird. I'm a Marist brother. It's a religious order of teaching brothers throughout the world. We're founded in 1817 in France. But we're in 80 countries throughout the world, on I think every continent except Antarctica. We don't minister to penguins, okay? But anyway, welcome to the Cathedral of St. Joseph on behalf of the Bishop Mark Brennan and the rector and vice rector of the cathedral and the people of St. Joseph Cathedral. Just one little thing. In September, we have a parish festival, and during that time, I'd welcome you to come because the food's pretty good, and but we also give tours of the cathedral. Now, if there's a group of you that want to come, you can contact the cathedral office, and sometimes they'll call me or somebody else to give more detailed tours. But right now, you're looking at the glass, okay? The glass was done by George Sauter. He was born and raised in Pittsburgh, 1879. He died in 1953. He went to Philadelphia as late teens. He was apprenticing as a stained glass maker, but when he got to Philadelphia area, on my little microphone here, he became interested in painting. And so, he came back to Pittsburgh area and taught at Carnegie Tech at that time before it became Carnegie Mellon. And he was on the faculty there. But then in 1919, he went back to the Philadelphia area, but he settled in New Hope. Anybody who knows anything about art, that's that Bucks County, and there's an artist colony there. And he really got into painting, and he's really well known among American Impressionists. But then he went back to stained glass, and that became one of his other bread and butter areas. From the 1920s up until probably his death in 1953, probably several years before his death, he was really heavily involved in stained glass making. He had about 15 people in his studio in New Hope, and also he worked out of Maine. Again, so a local boy does well also, in Pittsburgh. And the architect was also from Pittsburgh, but that's another whole story for another tour. If you look over here, the cathedral itself is what they call Romanesque, but what they call Northern Italian Romanesque, what they call Lombardy. And in my tour, I could give a little bit more. But if you look at the stained glass, actually, it does not exactly fit in with the Romanesque. And at that time, in the 20s, the medieval had become really popular. And of course, Sauter and you look at a lot of his windows to imitate this style. And it was really kind of patterns itself after Chartres Cathedral in France. If you have a good fortune to go there, or some of those other cathedrals in England, you'll notice this type of style. But what Sauter did with his commission was to do windows that reflected the Hebrew scriptures and the New Testament. So if you look here, you'll see Moses receiving the Ten Commandments. Above that, you'll see Christ with the Beatitudes, preaching. Okay, you come down here, the next one you'll see the baptism of Jesus by John the Baptist. Below that, you see Noah, after the ark, the Holy Spirit coming, or the dove, saying it's okay. So new life. Okay, same thing for Christ. It brings new life to the world. Right? You come down further, and you could just, we could do a little Bible quiz here. Okay. This next one is the top one. The New Testament is the wedding feast at Cana. Now, the Blessed Mother was instrumental in this. She said they need help, and he said, "I'm not ready for this." Okay, how do you deny your mom? Okay, down here is Queen Esther, and she was married to King Ahaz, but she's interceding for her people to be fed. Okay, so they're trying to do a comparable scene here, and we move down here further. You'll see the Archangel Gabriel appearing to the Blessed Mother. They're saying you're going to be the mother of God. There at the bottom is Rebecca giving water to Isaac. And in the biblical story, Isaac is looking for a wife, but he says, I don't know whom I'm supposed to choose. And the angel tells him, says, the woman who brings you water will be your wife. Okay, so that's kind of like, the announcement of that. Okay, now if you look above, okay, I know there's the wheel window. Above here is what they call the clear story in church architecture, especially Gothic and Romanesque. And it's and basically it was to let light into basically a dark church, right? And that is technically painted on the glass. And then back in the day before the stained glass got developed, if any church had any color or glass, it was painted. But it's a French term called grisale or grisaille, which means gris, which is gray in French. And so there's always like gray undertones to that glass. And it's also meant to look like it might be sculpted. If you really like sculpture pieces that are inserted into the window, a little bit of a relief. Okay, these are a little bit more colorful than the ones I've seen in New York, but also in a couple of museums. There's more ones back here above in the dome. If you look at straight across, some of the other windows, you'll see the resurrection. Okay, and you'll see Ezekiel going up to heaven, and so again, it's you can do the Old and New Testaments, back and forth. Okay. You come further down here, because I know you're on the time schedule too, so I'm trying to rush through here. Okay. You can come up to the altar area. Okay. If you kind of look back here as you get up here. Probably one of the outstanding pieces of artwork or glasswork here is what they call the wheel window. Other people, would call it a rose window. Now, there is a difference, but they serve the same purpose. Have some of you heard the word of mandala? Okay, again, it's always a circle, and it's a very ancient symbol but it's always a sign of unity. All right, so the rose windows do that, like the flowering, but this is what they call the wheel. Do you see it? You have that center spoke area, and then you have the other radiating arms out of it, the overlapping sculpture pieces. And so, again, things radiate from the center. In the center, you'll see a cross, and then God comes out, but also comes back. It's both in and out, okay? We're in this unity, all right? And again, done in blues, reds, and greens. Again, it captures what they call the shark blue color, which is a very specific type of blue. And back, it was around 1900 they were able to recapture that in stained glass making, because somehow the formula got lost somewhere in the late Middle Ages and blah blah. And that's also when stained glass went out of style. But that's not the whole story. But it's just a magnificent piece. I wish today were a sunny day. By this time, that window, as they use the term, would be shimmering. I mean, it's just magnificent. Okay. Again, so you've got the clear story windows here. Here on this side, all right, if you take the lower, on either side, all right, east, north and south, the transept. Okay, like the arms of Christ is done as a cross here. These are the four cardinal virtues. I think it's prudence and temperance, and on the other side is fortitude and perseverance, I think. Okay, the four cardinal virtues. The other windows are very reminiscent of Gothic architecture also, elongated windows for large side walls such as this. Some cathedrals in Europe will have other round windows that they decided because of the architecture here, we call the Byzantine and Romanesque, do an arch. But this is the life of St. Joseph, because we're dedicated to St. Joseph. Again, the lower part is the marriage of St. Joseph to Mary, and then above that, there's three medallions on each of these windows. But in between each window is what I call a rectangular section. They have like little mini scenes in there. So you'll have the angel appearing to Joseph saying it's okay to take Mary as your wife and having the child. And then I think it's also their journey to Bethlehem. You have the birth of Christ. In there you'll see the shepherds and also the Magi. I wish we had binoculars, okay, but sometimes if you ever want to come to church, bring binoculars, you really can examine those pieces. Again, and then you have the presentation where they go to the temple. It was Jewish custom to bring a child to have it blessed. And there's a little scene there about you finding Jesus in the temple. Remember when he got lost, okay, stuff like that. So that's also one of the motifs that inside and outside the cathedral are angels. They're everywhere around. But if you look carefully, I think that's what makes this kind of like a mini masterpiece, because there's so much detail here, but you really have to look for it. And in that window, if you had your binoculars, there's called angels lurking about. They're always there, kind of helping and guiding things. Okay. The same thing on this window is the last the scenes there of Joseph, where Joseph is involved, what they call, the flight into Egypt, okay? And then, Joseph listening to Jesus preaching, and then what they call the Dormition, or the death of St. Joseph. Now, that's not in the Bible, but again, people share these stories, what they call the Apocrypha, that never got into the Gospels and things like that. But there are things that are recorded that were written around the year 200, like peoples. Remember what the apostles said about these different peoples. So we have a fairly good thing, but we don't know when Joseph died, but it's just the idea that he was an important character or person in the life of Jesus. If up here in the dome, you'll look, and wonderful, about 150 feet from the floor to the ceiling. Up there, I know people are interested because that's supposed to represent the vision of heaven with all the different choirs of angels with their symbols being painted. But that's for another tour, okay? But up there you have the stained glass windows of the four archangels. Now we know Michael, Gabriel, Raphael. And when I first saying, well, who's the fourth one? Here I found out it's Uriel. Okay, he's not in the scriptures, but if you did these other books that never got accepted into the Bible, whether it's Protestant or Catholic, Uriel is the archangel of knowledge and wisdom. It's always pictured with a scroll. Also, people can pray to Uriel for intercession, especially if you're going through a life transition, making moves in your life. So pray to Uriel. Okay, it's okay to intercede for that. Again, if you come closer here, you'll see another gris soleil window, but these are even what I call grayer up here. Okay, if you can see them. Okay, you see up there by on either side of the angel windows. Yeah, I always like those. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. Again, there's a lot more detail, but I know you're on the time schedule, so am I. But thank you for coming to visit us tonight. Wish you a happy Holy Week, also Passover for those who are celebrating Passover. It's a rich heritage, and we celebrate that. And so it begins Palm Sunday tonight. Okay. All right. Good to meet you.
Wonderful.
And again, if a group of you wants to come in for a larger tour, phone the office and they can try to arrange something within a reasonable amount of time, because they have to get people like me, so they kind of get on their knees and beg, would you give a tour? So thank you, been really helpful. Any quick questions you can say as I'm walking back? Yeah. I'm a maintenance person, but you can get up into the barrel vault here. On the Feast of Pentecost, they can get up there, and what they do is, at the end of Mass, those artificial rose petals, they drop them down. So like the tongues of fire coming down upon the congregation. That's not the whole congregation, but they come down. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, thank you for, I wish I could have worn it more. Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much.
What's the significance of all these little...
They all represent the Trinity, the cross, but there's also, people get freaked out because there are some swastikas there.
That's what
But
I was asking.
Hitler took it and reversed the swastika. That's the thing, because the swastika is goes back to Sanskrit in India, and this idea of completeness and wholeness.
Wow.
And it was meant to represent the sun also.
Yeah.
But I know when people come and say, "Oh my God,
That's
I
the
knew."
first thing I looked at.
Yeah, I knew there's something wrong with them. Okay.
When did you say that was?
I know we have one at the Parish Festival in September, but groups have been coming. Like call, saying we have a group of 5 or 6 people.
Okay, we've got one more coming up here. Let's see if we can get in the right door. Hello. Mm-hmm. I'll wave my umbrella. Yes, there's some stained glass to look at in there. Just we were going to have refreshments, as Jean had mentioned, but we'll stop by real quickly, and that'll be the end of the tour.
You see all the friends in there dancing around in this house. Nothing but the best friends that have made out. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Turn right, Ellen.
All right. Okay.
No, right there.
We're going to do a quick history out here if you want to listen to it. If not, help yourself. Of businessman Samuel Good, owner of the fondly remembered L.S. Good department store. Mansion was built in 1905 and features beautiful stained glass and woodwork. Within, there's little recorded about this home, and when we get inside, it's very tight quarters. So your host for this part of the tour is me. And I'm going to read what we did find is an article in the Wheeling Intelligencer, which ran in 1989, which provides some details that a descendant, Sam Good, made of the house. And it reads, L.S. built the elegant structure now known as the Good Mansion at 95 14th Street in 1904 for $7,000. The neoclassical revival house was designed by the architect Millard F. Giese, and most of the materials were produced by Wheeling local craftsmen. A few years later, L.S. invested another $7,000 in renovations, installing intricate woodwork and 24 magnificent stained glass windows. The home featured original paintings and ceiling murals by a German artist named Kaufmann, hand-painted tiles, inlaid hardwood parquet floors, and a bronze statue of the goddess Acadia. I'll sign off now. It's tight quarters in there, but as you go through, there is a stairway, and on that landing is a pretty impressive stained glass display. So thank you for this tour. Hope you enjoyed it. Sorry for the little bit of miscommunications on the ways in and out, but we'll do.